I was a Christian for 37 years before I started deconstructing.
Well, let's see why.
In about 405 BC, a man named Euripides published a book called the Bacchae.
Which is a wild trip.
Not only does the Bacchae have many different themes and motifs that relate to Jesus Christ's character himself as a character named Dionysus,
No, it doesn't.
but it also has a very particular story.
It has a lot of particular and strange stories, but nothing like what we see in the New Testament, beyond vague generalities.
In the Bacchae story, there's a man named Pentheus who's persecuting the followers of Dionysus, who is the archetype or motif that's very similar to Jesus Christ. Pentheus would be like Paul in the Bible.
Pentheus is the king of Thebes and the villain in the story, which is unlike who Paul was. The only similarity is that Paul persecuted Christians and Pentheus persecuted the Dionysus cult, but they go about it in different ways. Again, the only similarities are vague associations.
And many of them practiced a water-to-wine ritual to celebrate and worship Dionysus' life.
There is no evidence for that in pre-Christian times. The closest you get in the Bacchae is that at one point, a female follower of Dionysus drives her thyrsus into a rock and out comes water. Another drives her fennel into the ground and by a miracle out comes wine. But it doesn't mention any water-to-wine rituals.
Pentheus absolutely hated Dionysus and he hated the doctrines.
That is accurate.
Until one day, Pentheus was on the road, out to go find some of the followers of Dionysus so he could persecute them, and he was approached by an angel of light. And guess who that was? The half-man, half-god, demigod figure Dionysus.
Sir, if this is actually the reason you deconverted, someone lied to you. In the Bacchae, Dionysus disguises himself as a priest of his own cult and convinces Pentheus to dress up as a woman to spy on the female followers of Dionysus, also called Maenads. But also Dionysus admits privately this is part of his plan to have Pentheus killed. Dionysus in disguise leads Pentheus dressed as a woman out into the wilderness. Pentheus decides he's going to climb a tree to get a better view, and then Dionysus removes his disguise and sicks his female followers on Pentheus. The Maenads, which include Pentheus' own mother, kill him by tearing him limb from limb. There was even a depiction of this part of the story discovered at the ruins of Pompeii. So what exactly in the Bacchae is similar to Paul's conversion on the road to Damascus?
And guess what Dionysus' advice was for Pentheus? Dionysus says, "It is hard for thee to kick against the pricks, since thou art immortal." Interestingly, these are the exact same words that Paul would use when he wrote about his experience on the road to Damascus, which is literally a copy.
As we've already demonstrated, Paul's conversion story is definitely not a copy of what we read in the Bacchae. And as the scholar Ben Witherington notes, to kick against the goads was a common Greek idiom from the time. It'd be like if I said, "That's the way the cookie crumbles." It doesn't mean I've directly copied someone, I'm just using a common cultural idiom from our time. Additionally, in the Bacchae, when Dionysus uses this idiom, he's still disguised as a mortal priest, and Pentheus responds by saying he will kill all the Maenads. This is nothing like Paul's conversion story.
Now, there are many, many more parallels between Paul and Pentheus.
No, there are not, and even if there were, this wouldn't prove anything in the New Testament is fiction, and I explain the philosophical problems with this type of reasoning in these two videos.